Hello, everyone. I am Grandmaster Rafael Leitão. I'm speaking from Brazil right now, and I am really glad to be your host for this presentation, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about the books that made me into a Grandmaster, so to speak, and I will share with you my development as a chess player since the beginning of my work, of my studies, and how those books helped me to become a stronger player. And I hope that this presentation will help you, not only because of the historical importance of all of these books that I'm going to show you guys, but also to understand the principles of working on chess. I think it will be made very clear why those books helped me and what kind of work I did and why I started to develop as a chess player. And I think this information is going to be very useful. Please let me know if you guys are hearing me well. I'm here seeing the chat box. And so please let me know if everything is fine. Just say something here, say hello or something, so I can see if everything is working out. I hope it is. This is going to be a very theoretical presentation, so to speak, as I'm going to show you some slides, and I'm going to show the books. Even I'm going to show you the exact format of the book I actually read. So of course some of them were written in Portuguese, but I'm going to make some correlation with books that are possible in English also. Okay, greetings everyone. So I see that everything is working fine. Okay, so Sylvester is from Isle of Man. I guess you are going to play this very strong tournament that begins tomorrow, and I know that with a very curious pairing, since Caruana is playing against Kramnik, as I was told. But okay, this is for another talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these books, and then I'm going to also answer questions that you might have about, especially about chess study. How do you develop as a chess player? And before we delve into my presentation, we are going to PowerPoint so that I can show you those books. Let me tell you a little more about my chess career. So I started playing at the age of 6. I am from Brazil. Today I'm 37. And I lived in a small town in the northeast of Brazil with absolutely no chess culture. I had to travel to São Paulo every time I wanted to play a good tournament. That's a 3-hour trip by plane. As you all know, Brazil has some it's a very big country, so I had to get this huge trip in order to play chess. And I had no sparring partner. I was trained, so to speak, by my father, who liked chess. He was an amateur player, not even he was very weak, but he liked to play chess, and he had several chess books. And what he did was, I was very fortunate to have access to all those good books, and my father has very good taste for chess literature, so I was able to study very good chess books from my beginning. And so I started studying seriously from the age of 7, and then at the age of 9 I was second place in the world championship of my age. At the age of 11, I was world champion of my age. And at the age of 16, I was world champion again at the age of under 18. And at the age of 18, I became the youngest chess grandmaster. So my presentation today will focus on those books that I studied until I became a chess grandmaster. As I said, we are going to analyze why those books helped me and why you should study this kind of books. I'm not going to say study exactly this same book, but you are going to see, okay, this is a tactical book, this is a book for opening repertoire, this is a good for chess endings or these kind of things. And so you will be able to prepare your chess training program in a similar fashion. Okay, so I'm going to share you guys my screen now. I hope this works. So, okay. So I'm sharing with you now my presentation. I'm not sure if I should place it at full screen, but okay, we're going to study this way. So, okay, so these are the chess books I read to become a grandmaster. Let me see if I put it on full screen, if it gets better. Just a second. Okay, so this is probably full screen for you now. We'll probably have a slight delay, but that's fine. And so these are actually 20 books that I studied in order to become a grandmaster. So let's see them one by one. Okay, so the first question actually I would like to bring is, should we still study chess with books? This is a tricky question, I think, because in this age of modern technology, where we have access to a lot of things through computers, and okay, you have training partners if you meet them with Skype and these things. Do we still need chess books? And my answer is, of course, yes. So this is clear that it's still important to study by chess books. I see that maybe some of you are not seeing my screen now. I'm going to put it back on not full screen mode. I guess this is going to help. So please, some feedback if you can see my screen at the moment, so we can continue. Yeah, I think now it's working. Yeah. All right. So actually, studying by chess books is a very important thing. You should use this also together with studying chess videos and going to play chess online, and all these things complement each other. So you should be doing all of those. So good chess books are there for a reason, and you should definitely still study chess with books. So the first book I read, it's a chess book that it's in Portuguese. Of course, I was a very young boy when I started to train, so I didn't speak English or another language that was not Portuguese. So the name of this book can be translated as The Basics of Chess, something like that. Okay, and this is a wonderful book for beginners. I see that many people start with books like Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess and these kind of books. And this is actually a much better book because it was very comprehensive with ideas to play openings, middle game, and also several end games and a lot of classical games. So that's what you need at this beginning. You should understand the basics. So you should study a little bit of each phase of the game, especially end games and tactics. And this book offered me what I needed to have at this beginner level, let's say. So that's how I started. I understood the basic motives of a chess game. And then after that, at the beginning of your chess study, you should place a lot of emphasis on working hard on tactics. So many people neglect that, and many people try to study chess simply by reading books or following games or reproducing games without thinking about it. And you really learn chess when you start to train your decision making. And the first thing you should do is to develop a keen tactical eye. You should understand the basics of all the tactical themes that we have in chess. So when I talk about double attack, decoy, destruction of pawn structure, back rank mate, fork, all these things. This should be very basic for you. Yes, Sylvester, xadrez básico is like chess basics. That's correct. And you should understand all this vocabulary of text. So you should solve a lot of exercise. As I usually tell my students a story that ever since I started training chess seriously until I got my Grandmaster title, and with it, let's say, an excuse to be a little lazier, let's put it that way, I used to train tactics every time when I was training chess, and that was a lot. So I really got very strong at tactics, and that's why I think I was very strong at the tournaments of my age category, because I was very well developed. I calculated better than my opponents at this age. And so this made really a huge difference. And that's what you should start training if you are at this level. Actually, this is important in all levels, even at Grandmaster level. A Grandmaster should not neglect this work also. Of course, as I said, with the Grandmaster title, we get a little bit... well, we have seen a lot of technical themes, so we don't work on that so much, but it's still very useful to train calculation and to be ready to solve some exercises. So that's what you should do. Actually, this book, Test Your Chess IQ by Lifshitz, I studied this very old version of this book that you are seeing on my screen, but there is a more modern version of this book, so it is still selling, and it's a very good material because it gives you a lot of exercises to solve, and it's a very interesting system. The book gives you some time to solve a given number of exercises, and you can score some points. Obviously, I like it to do that as a kid because kids really like this competition thing. But of course, this is useful for all ages. Okay, so my next book, I consider it a classic. I hope all of you have heard about this book. It's called Modern Chess Strategy. It was written by Ludek Pachman, a strong player who once even beat Bobby Fischer. And this is a book that influenced my generation in Brazil. And this generation is formed mainly by me and my rival at those times, called Grandmaster called Giovanni Vescovi, also very strong, and now he's a retired player. And our trainers, they taught us the concepts of strategy through this book. And I'm going to show you these books. They are more or less in chronological order, let's say, in which I studied it. So at the beginning, I was studying xadrez básico, then Test Your Chess IQ, and now Modern Chess Strategy, when I was still a very weak player, still learning the fundamentals of chess strategy. And so this book helped me a lot. This is a classical book. I think even today, it can show you a lot of good ideas. And if we talk about modern strategy books, I would say that there is a book by John Watson. Now I think in English it's called, because we have a version in Portuguese, but I think it's called Secrets of Modern Chess Strategy. Please, someone confirm to me if it's really the title of this book, Secrets of Modern Chess Strategy. I find this book very good also, and it may be a substitution, let's say, for this modern chess strategy, which is a bit outdated in some concepts. Of course, in the 70s, I think when this book was written, chess was a little different than it is right now, but this book is still very good. Many people ask me about a book called My System, classical book written by Aaron Nizovich, and I may be making a scene when I say that, but I never liked this book, and I still don't like it. I don't know, it's because I didn't like it as a child, but well, some trainers recommended me to read this book, but I just couldn't do it. I found it unreadable when I was young, and I couldn't study by this book. And I don't recommend my students to study by this book. I think it's it's full of dogmatic concepts. It's not going to help your chess a lot at this point. Well, Sylvester has a nice question here. He asks me if I undertook a coach or if I was a self-learner. Thanks a lot for your question. Sylvester, I had a few coaches. Let's say my father was my first coach, but he was a player maybe rated 1600, something like that. And I started back and then with one trainer from São Paulo, but it was really only when I was playing some tournaments or only during my world championships, but it was not a regular training. My regular training was alone. Actually, my father, he was going to work, to his regular work, and he usually set me a set of tasks that I should do during my afternoon of studies. So I had to solve this amount of tactical exercise and read this part of this book. It was more or less like that. And then after that, I was studying by myself. And when I was 15, I started to work with a very strong Grandmaster from Brazil, Gilberto Milos, and he helped me a lot in achieving my Grandmaster title. So, okay. This other book, it's a gem, in my opinion. This is a precious little book, and it's really unknown by the masses. I don't know why, because this book is phenomenal, in my opinion. It's called Test Your Positional Play, and this is authored by Belin Ponzetto, and you are going to find more books about these twin authors in my collection. This is a wonderful book. I really like it a lot, and it helped me in developing my chess strategy. And this book, it's very interesting because it's like also a set of exercises, and the author proposes, and in these positions, he gives you 3 possible plans. He tries to deceive you, let's say, and he gives you 3 types of plans, and he asks you which plan would you choose in a given position, and then he goes on to explain and show why one works, why the other doesn't work. It's a very good book also, and it's not very well known, but it's wonderful material. This other book, it's called An Opening Repertoire for White, and this is a book by Raymond Keane, a very controversial figure in chess, but actually this book was very good for me because it gave me a complete opening repertoire so that I could forget about openings and for white and concentrate on the most important thing, which was developing my middle game and my end game. So this is a very important concept also, because when you are starting to play chess, you should not give too much emphasis on openings, contrary to what many people do, actually. And so if you have a good repertoire book, this book can help you in forgetting, let's say, about openings. And for this also chess videos are very useful, because you see the explanation of a Grandmaster in a given variation, and then you just play it. You don't need a Grandmaster preparation at this time. So this is very good to forget about it and concentrate in what is more important, which is mainly calculation and tactics. Another book that I read about openings, it was one of my favorite author of that in the 90s, which is John Nunn, and his books are excellent. I see even today, if you get those books by John Nunn, they were written before the computer age, and if you get those books even today, you'll find that those books are still wonderfully modern. You could study any of those books by John Nunn even today. If you get this book, Beating the Sicilian, where John Nunn recommends a repertoire for white against the Sicilian defense, and you up to a given level, let's say 1800 or 1900, something like that, you can still play those same variations without any fear. So this book is also very good, and it's still fresh. You can still find good ideas even in these old books. Another book by John Nunn is The Najdorf for the Tournament Player. The Najdorf was my youth love, let's say. I really liked this opening. Well, till this day, I still like it. What I don't like it is the work I have to do in order to play the Night Earth today. But sorry, but I really liked the Night Earth when I was a young boy, and I won many games due to Nun's wonderful analytical work in this book, Night Earth for the Tournament Player. As I said, is still very fresh. By the way, speaking about the Night Earth defense, in the descriptions below this video, you'll find that one of the chess courses that I offer in a nice promotion for those who are watching this video is a course that I did on the Night Earth. So I have been playing this defense since I was 7 or 8 years old. So I really liked, and I'm glad I was able to study this whole book from this young age. Also, continuing the books on openings, this Mastering the King's Indian book, again, by Belin and Ponzetto, also a fantastic book on openings. And I really like the ideas from these authors. And the idea here, he was not delving into variations so much, but he was explaining the basic ideas of the King's Indian. That's what helped me, so I can play the King's Indian even now, and just knowing these ideas, even without many variations. And that's also how I like to study opens. I like to understand the general ideas. I like to see a lot of model games about a given opening, and that's the way I think that you should study also. So this kind of book make wonderful material. Also, our next book is very useful for this training, to study model games and the chess informant. When I was growing up as a player, everybody was eager to put their hands on the chess informants. We didn't have databases back then. At least until mid-90s, I was completely alien to the idea of studying chess with a computer. So we were studying games from these sources, especially the chess informants. So I was there are many volumes of this book where I reproduced in my chessboard all the games, simply all the games. And this is also a wonderful book that made a great contribution in my growing as a chess player. And also the parts on combinations and endgames, where this book, in the final part of this book, you have a lot of exercises. It's also very useful, and still today, this is a wonderful book. Now let's go for a few absolute classical books. And the first one is My 60 Memorable Chess Games. You are seeing here in the image the Brazilian version of this book, written in Portuguese. I studied by this book, and I read it from cover to cover. It is still one of my favorite books, and Bobby Fischer is my favorite player of all time. In my opinion, he was the best chess player ever. Actually, I wrote an article about that, and it was a bit controversial because many, actually, the majority considers Kasparov as the best, with a lot of good arguments. But for me, it was Bobby Fischer. And I studied this book from cover to cover. It's one of the best chess books ever written. And I always tell my students that you should study the classics, because they are classics for a reason. Some of my students only want to study chess with a computer, seeing what the engines are saying or stuff like that. And this is a ridiculous way of studying chess. You should mainly concentrate on training your decision making and studying the classics. And no book is as good as this book by Bobby Fischer in order to develop your chess skills at this time. And also this book by Alexander Alekhine, also one of the best chess players ever. Actually, he was ranked 3rd in my list of the 10 best chess players ever. Also, maybe a bit controversial also, but because I'm putting him ahead of Capablanca, for instance. But to me, he was the 3rd best chess player ever. Also, I read this book from cover to cover, and wonderful games. And it's incredible how Alekhine was ahead of his time. He was many years ahead, maybe decades ahead of his competition. He was really putting chess into another level. Another very good chess book that should be read by anyone is David Bronstein's Zurich 53. You are seeing the version that I studied. It was an Spanish version, El Ajedrez de Torneo. Actually, a small curiosity about this book. When I was in Moscow to train with Mark Dvoretsky, the late Mark Dvoretsky, he told me that in Russia, everybody knows that actually David Bronstein didn't write this book, that it was written by his trainer at the time, and that maybe maybe they just analyzed the games together and the guy wrote the book or something like that. And it doesn't matter. Maybe it was even better, because the main merits of this book is that it's written giving a clear explanation of positional ideas in all the critical games. So a player who studies carefully all the games from this book will improve significantly his understanding of chess, because well, the concepts and the evaluations, the ideas that are in this book are pure gold. So it's a very good way of improving your chess understanding. Another of my favorite books is The Life and Games of Mikhail Tal. It's a wonderful chess book from also one of my favorite chess players. Actually, many people were surprised that Mikhail Tal didn't make my list of the top 10 chess players ever. And I'm sorry for that. Maybe I should reconsider it and put him maybe in the 10th spot. But this book is definitely in my list of the 10 best chess books ever, because this book shows many of the brilliant games of Mikhail Tal, one of the most creative players of all times, fantastic combinations, and also his general chess vision was very interesting. So this book is also very good. Actually, I didn't read this book from cover to cover, I must admit this, but I reproduced the best games and I read the wonderful stories written by Tal. And this is also a source of motivation. So just a little anecdote. When I was young, surprised me, since I come from Brazil, I was not dreaming of being a football player. I was more dreaming of being a chess player for whatever reason. But and I used to bring a lot of chess books to my bedtime reading. And I was usually, when I was 12, 13, I was reading, for instance, this book by Tal, and imagine if one day I would be able to produce such wonderful games, or if I would be able to play chess at such a deep level. And so it really helped me my motivation to become a stronger player. So let's go to another classical book, also a fantastic chess book, Grandmaster Preparation by Lev Polugaevsky. Let me know if any of you guys know this book. This is a wonderful book, just fantastic book. It's I have no words to describe this book, how good it is. Also, Polugaevsky was a hard worker. He was studying chess very concretely, very scientifically, from this concrete perspective, like this idea of the Soviet chess school. And he brings this to his book, and he shows how he was preparing his openings, how he was analyzing a lot of systems, how he was making his analytical discoveries. And this was very important for me so I could understand something, because when I was younger, I as many people, when I developing as a chess player, it was very hard for me to make some analytical work. I was a little bit lazy, and I find it hard to, well, start analyzing a position that was never played before, or that you want to discover the truth about a given position, and then you was analyzing by your own without a partner. I found this very, very hard. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I found this extremely difficult. So to start analyzing a position, especially without a computer, and try to find out what is going on. And by reading how Polugaevsky was able to do that, how he used to do this kind of work, this was a great source of inspiration for me. He was telling stories about his late night analysis on his favorite Polugaevsky defense on the night Earth, and how he was preparing this, and also in his adjourned games, how he was preparing and trying to find tricks to beat his opponents. And it was let's say an introduction to high level quality analysis, something that I didn't knew at this time. It was something new for me. I was not studying chess at such a deep level, and then I was really growing into a stronger player. I was understanding some principles that I could use to achieve my master title at this moment, and this book helped me a lot to understand that. Also, of course, I couldn't leave this book out of my list, and The Test of Time. This book also hugely influenced the way I view chess. Actually, I found this book better than the most modern books by Kasparov, the great predecessor series that I think most of you are familiar with, because this book was written with more passion, in my opinion. It was a different thing. It was Kasparov showing how he became a world championship contender. It's his games from this part of his life, and these are not like the great predecessor series, which are also very good books, but filled with computer analysis to the sometimes pages of computer analysis, which makes it even hard to see at some point. Some games you just see a page filled with analysis. The Test of Time was different. Well, many games were heavily analyzed also, but they were analyzed with more passion without computers. And then I find this I think this is the best book written by Kasparov, and it really influenced me a lot. And I like this book till this day. Actually, in the Portuguese version of this book, I wrote the foreword, and speaking a little bit about my experience with this wonderful material also. And this I read from cover to cover. And now comes a few books by my idol, Mark Dvoretsky, the trainer. I was so obsessed with training with Dvoretsky, and I was reading his book. I was devouring all his books when I was young, and so in 2002, I even made the trip to Moscow in order to study, to work with chess with him, and this was a wonderful experience. It all began with Secrets of Chess Training. By this time, I was probably a candidate master. I was like 13 years old, something like that, and I was trying to become an international master. And this book helped me a lot. It was like finding a treasure for me, because the things that Dvoretsky wrote on this book really enlightened my understanding. It was like a whole world. My father, he was like also almost in love with this book, and the deepness, the profundity of the ideas that are contained in this book is something really incredible. Although some positions are so hard that I actually wanted to cry when I was studying it, because sometimes I thought that I could not be a good chess player because I could not solve those positions. And then I understood that they were difficult even for grandmasters. This pushed me to another level. I'm really glad to Dvoretsky for having shared this knowledge with us. And these books, well, they have a different version now. They're school. I think that it's called School of Chess Excellence, and there are like 4 or 5 volumes. I don't know, something like that. But it's still the first book, for instance, is this Secrets of Chess Training, and the second book is Secrets of Chess Tactics, also a wonderful book, and for players who want to really understand how to calculate better. So this book is really a necessity. So Dvoretsky shows a lot of very interesting examples, and he touches on topics like candidate moves and very deep ideas from tactics. And there is a special game, Tau Portish, that is a famous game where Tau sacrifices a rook, and I can still reproduce this game today from the many hours that I was studying the analysis from this book, and this helped me to start calculating in a much stronger way, in a much better way. Also, this book, Think Like a Grandmaster, maybe this is a well-known book for you because this is also a classic, and this is a wonderful book. But I didn't read this book from cover to cover. I just want you guys to read one chapter of this book, which has a lot of historical importance. Maybe I should have put this book before the book Secrets of Chess Tactics, because Kotov introduces a concept called candidate moves, which I think it's the single most important idea in order to calculate better. And he introduces this idea in a chapter about calculation, although this chapter is filled also with some dogmatic thinking, and Kotov was like trying to train us to think like a robot. Maybe those communist times were also influencing his view of chess, and he wanted us to become like robots also. So, but the idea is still very interesting in order to organize your thoughts. And this is something very important, because some players, when they are calculating, they are completely disorganized. They go from line to line. They cannot find conclusions. They, well, they are simply like analyzing a few moves, and then they go back to the initial position, and then and so goes on and forth, and they cannot calculate anything serious, and they well get in time scramble because they cannot calculate. And this is a, well, maybe the single most important thing that you should improve in order to play chess better. And then Kotov, he teaches some principles. As a curiosity, the examples that Kotov uses in this book, actually, they are with quite bad analysis if you study this book today. And actually, he fails to point out a lot of interesting candidate moves in these games that he shows about this particular topic. So I even in my website, by the way, I hope you guys visit it at some time. It's rafaelleitao.com. Okay, so it's my name, rafaelleitao.com, and you can even find a modern version of analysis from this book. And I point out how Kotov wrote this chapter, and he forgot to find some candidate moves in his analysis, but he introduced this concept, which was, I think, refined by Mark Dvoretsky, and Dvoretsky then really showed how you should apply this concept to your calculation. Okay, another book, one about Endgames, but also a hidden gem, let's say, a precious little book that is not very well known. It's Test Your Endgame Ability, again by Lifshitz, and also by John Spielman, which is a British Grandmaster and an endgame specialist. This book is fantastic, very good book, especially the part on king and pawn endgames and also rook endgames. This book is also prepared in this way, where he gives you a lot of tests and you have to solve those tests. And that's a fantastic book, because it trains your endgame understanding and also trains your calculation. It trains both things. Some people think that in endgames you should not calculate. And this idea could not be most far away from the truth. So actually, it's the reverse. In endgames, you should calculate to perfection. And this book shows you a lot of interesting positions and many recurrent ideas in endgames. And I think I really recommend you to buy it and to study these ideas. Well, for people who are arriving now and asking who is giving this video, my name is Grandmaster Rafael Leitão. I am from Brazil. My rating right now is 2620. So I am the #1 rated player in my country and one of the best in South America, I think. I'm not sure about my position, but okay. And I was twice world champion, and I still play chess a lot from time to time. Well, okay, the next book is The Art of Chess Analysis. This is a book by Jan Timman. And yes, maybe Abdenur, whatever you prefer to do it. Okay, so my next book is The Art of Chess Analysis, and this is also a very good book for training calculation. And I read this book when I was, I remember very well, I was 15 when I was studying very thoroughly this book. And it's also a book written with passion. And Jan Timman was a very passionate player when he wrote this book. And this book shows also the analytical job that he had to do in order to play chess well. And I really like books who shows you that to play chess, you have to analyze deeply, and you have to think with your own head. You have to make this work. And these books by Dvoretsky, by John Nunn, and by Timman especially, they showed me that I had to do it to get my Grandmaster title. Okay, so Michael is asking me about when did I get the Grandmaster title. I got it in 1998 after an international tournament in Bermudas. And I was 18 years old at the time, still the youngest Brazilian player to achieve the Grandmaster title. Okay, and Nilesh is asking about, he has this game, Endgame Thinking by Glenn Fleer, and he's asking me if is it good. I don't know, because I didn't read this book, so I'm really in no position to give you my opinion. So, okay, another book which I like very much is Secrets of Grandmaster Play, again by my favorite author at the 90s, and it's John Nunn. And I had many hours of fun studying this book. This is a really deep book. As you can say, I like books written with passion, and that's why I don't like books even today filled with a lot of computer analysis. And John Nunn, well, he is a mathematician, brilliant mathematician, and he brings this view into his writings. So he was analyzing his best games, and he was a very keen attacking player, very concrete. Well, he could even play against Kasparov and Karpov. He was really one of the best chess players at his time. And he was analyzing these games in a very mathematical way. So he was trying to prove his ideas. He was trying to delve very, very deeply into the analysis. And well, this book in particular, it was used by Mark Dvoretsky also in his books in several examples. And Mark Dvoretsky, he liked to make some a very interesting kind of chess training, which was he would get a very complicated position and play this game out. He would analyze it very deeply, and then he would play this game from a given position against his students. But his student had no access to any analysis before. So the guy had to figure out what was happening and play a game, and in order to train his analytical and his calculation ability. And this is for players who are willing to develop the game with initiative and to develop calculation. actually this book can be a very good source of material. Actually, I told you guys that I would be talking about 20 books. Now I see that probably I have a few more, but maybe 21 or 22. I'm not sure. And a question that remains: those are the books that helped me to achieving my Grandmaster title. At the point I have read those books, I was a player strong enough to be ready to become a Grandmaster. And then I was really helped by my working with Grandmaster Gilberto Milos. I was very lucky to have the opportunity to study against with such a strong player. And I was ready by this point to understand the ideas that a Grandmaster would give to me without him having to explain it to me. Because my training with Milos was, we would analyze positions on the board, but he was not explaining to me everything that I had to do. I was just like observing his way of playing chess, his views, and this helped me. I was able to understand how a Grandmaster can take decisions, how is this process. And I was helped by, of course, many years of study, mainly by those books. And so by this time I was ready to become a very strong player. And Sylvester asked me, yes, I have a Facebook page also. It's maybe Justi can put it in. I have some Facebook in English if you want to follow me, and also in Portuguese, and with some also some materials there to study chess. And so these books, and many people ask me, okay, Rafael, now you have showed us some great chess books, the books that you studied, and do you still study with chess books, or do you still like reading books? And my answer is yes. I really enjoy reading chess books. Actually, I am a complete fanatic by books. I have more than 1,000 chess books in my home. I also have a lot of literature books because I really like it. But of chess alone, I have more than 1,000 books in my apartment, and I still keep buying it and reading it. So I can also recommend a few books for you now to continue your working on chess. So as I said, this Grandmaster, this predecessor series by Kasparov, wonderful books. There is one book by Boris Gulko. It's called Lessons with a Grandmaster. In my opinion, this is one of the best books of the last 20 years. I have wrote about it. It's a fantastic chess book. And also another book I would like to recommend you before I wrap up this presentation is the collection by Arthur Yusupov, and it's Boost Your Chess, Build Up Your Chess. And I'm not sure about the third title of this book, but it's a famous collection by Arthur Yusupov. Actually, it consists of 9 books, beginning with the fundamentals up to players on master level. Actually, from the last book of his master players book, I tried to solve some positions and I found it quite hard, to be honest. And this is also a very good book. Also, some people are making some questions here. Mo is asking me if I use Android app to analyze positions. No, absolutely. I only use apps to read news about chess, and I also use an app where I can follow chess games from all over. So I can really just click this app and then I can follow all the best chess games that are being played. And also I use an app that helps me to get into a chess database, so that if I have to prepare without having access to my computer, I can see some games there. Okay. No, this is more of a theoretical talk. I wanted to show you guys some of the best chess books I have read and how these books can help you. Okay. And if you liked my chess philosophy, you definitely should check out the offer that is in the description of this video, and it's a bundle that the guys from iChess, my partners, they made with 3 chess courses that I recorded for them, and one of them is Crushing White with the Sicilian Najdorf. As you could see in this presentation, the Najdorf defense from a very young age was one of my favorite defense. So I recorded a 3-hour course showing a complete repertoire. And there is another course that I recorded for them is Winning Chess Games in the Openings, where I show some concepts about opening play and show a lot of games where you showing how you can play the openings better. And also explosive metagame tactics, where I show the main ideas, main tactical ideas. And this is also a very, very nice chess course. And so in total, in this bundle, you have 9 hours of chess training on different phases of the game. And if you liked my chess philosophy, you could see by the books that I read, you can now more or less feel the way I think about chess. You can feel that I think you should have a lot of analytical work. You should think with your own head, that you should be really studying the game. So if you agree with this philosophy, or if you like to know more, then you definitely should check out, because the guys gave a huge discount, and it's really tempting. You have 9 hours of nice chess courses for a very low price. So I'd like to thank you guys for being here with me in this presentation. Let me go for my webcam again here. Just a second. So, okay, you can see even in my screen now that I really like books, as you can see from my library, and also some of my trophies. I think you can see it. So I hope this presentation was useful. I would like also to invite you guys to visit my website. It's rafaelleitao.com. Okay, so in the chat you can find my website address also. And I have a Portuguese website, but I have also an English website, which is growing little by little, where you can find analysis of chess games, and you can have a lot of chess articles on news, and also my chess philosophy. So visit it. I think you guys are going to really like it. So thanks a lot for joining me for this presentation. I hope you liked it, and I plan to do it many other times. Also, in my next one, talking about specific concepts of chess games, and then I will be showing you some games in my next presentation. Thanks a lot, guys, and really some greetings from Brazil. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.